So 17th verse, Dhanvantaram dvadashamam trayodashamevacha dashamam evacha apayayat surananyan mohinya mohayan striya. So Lord Dhanvantari we will discuss first. Dhanvantaram, the incarnation of Godhead named Dhanvantari. Dvadashamam, the 12th in the line. Trayodashamam, the 13th in the line. Eva, and certainly. Cha, and Apayayat, gave to drink. Suran, the demigods. Anyan, others. Mohinya, by charming beauty. Mohayan, alluring. Striya, in the form of a woman. So, we every year we celebrate the appearance of Lord Dhanvantari. Can anyone tell me when do we celebrate the appearance of Lord Dhanvantari?
Is it during Diwali days?
Yes, exactly. So Dhanatrayodashi, which is sometimes a day before or sometimes 2 days before Diwali starts, is the appearance of Lord Dhanvantari. Lord Dhanvantari is, as I think, so in our last discussion, we briefly spoke about the Vedas delivered by the Lord. Original Vedas were delivered by Lord Brahma when he was creating this universe. So there are 4 Vedas. In the Satya Yuga, everything was just Pranava mantra, and then from that Pranava mantra, which is Omkar mantra, all the Vedas were manifested in the heart of the devotees. In Treta Yuga, the Vedas became more elaborate because as the time progresses, people will need more detailed explanation because their intelligence slowly slows down. So that time the Vedas were segregated into multiple Vedic literature, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva, and slowly as the human beings or all the living beings in the universe, they needed different explanations of how to live life. So fascinating part of Vedic literature is Vedic literature has, if there is one shloka, for example, in the Vedic literature, that shloka can give you the understanding of how to live in the material world very nicely, very peacefully. And the same shloka, if the person has a very elevated consciousness, will give the understanding of how to detach yourself from the material world and go back to spiritual world, Sharanagati, how to surrender. Quite interesting. Another interesting aspect of Sanskrit, which is a very, very, very powerful, very posh, amazing language, is Sanskrit has two parts. One is Gadya and one is Padya. Gadya means prose and Padya is poetry. So Sanskrit, what shlokas, for example, what we are seeing here, Dhanvantaram Dvadasham Trayodasham Evacha. If we change, if somebody understands Sanskrit grammar properly, and if that person can change the order of the words in this, the meaning won't change. It will remain same. For example, there is a verse in the Niti Shastra which talks about how a human being should be. I will chant that verse just to give you an idea of how this Sanskrit composition is. The verse is like this: Yeshamna vidya na tapona danam, the jnanam na shilam na guno na dharmaha, te mrittiloke bhuvibhara bhutaha, manushya rupena mrugascharanti. Now, if we see the meaning of this, Yeshamna vidya, it's talking about the people. The person who does not have vidya, who does not have a tendency to acquire knowledge, that is basically vidya. Yeah. So accepting svikruti, the knowledge is vidya. Yeshamna vidya na tapo, the person who does not have inclination towards austerities. Tapa is austerity. Yeshamna vidya na tapo na danam, the person who does not have generosity, who is a miser. Na jnanam, the person who does not acquire the knowledge, who can see the knowledge but does not acquire, he cannot relish the knowledge. That is jnanam. Na tapona jnanam, na shilam, the person who does not have character, who does not develop his own, who does not care for the proper character. Jnanam na shilam, na guno, and the person who does not have tendency to acquire good qualities. Na guno. And the last is the dharma. Dharma means the righteous path of living. The person who does not care about following a dharma, te mrittiloke, on this earth, they are bhuvibhara bhutaha, means they are just a weight on this earth. Their existence has no meaning. Manushya rupena mrugascharanti. In the form of human being, they are loitering here and there like animals. Mrugascharanti. That means it's called alankar in Sanskrit. It is called upma alankar. It is giving the synonymous idea from the nature. So, for example, mrugascharanti means the deers. If you see in the forest, there is a herd of deers. They just keep grazing and roaming around, loitering around. So they are just they are in the form of the people. This verse is saying they are in the form of the people. They are just moving here and there. And that is a description of demon. And we will see that here in this verse. So if you see, this is a very, very simple verse. I picked up this example is because if you see, if you change the order, instead of, you see, na tapo na danam, yesham na vidya, na shilam na guno na dharmaha, bhuvibhara bhutaha te mrittiloke, manushya rupena mrugascharanti. Meaning won't change. It's the same meaning. Absolutely same. Very, very fascinating aspect of studying Sanskrit. We are not advocating to study only Vyakaran here, but it's just I was giving the facets of the beauty of this language. So Lord appeared as Dhanvantari. Let's come back to this verse. And then he gave the Ayurvedic literature. He's the father of Ayurveda. Does it mean that during the Samudra Manthan only Lord Dhanvantari appeared? No. I think there was a question yesterday or some, it was raised that Airavat appeared during the journey, and Lord Indra also came on Airavat. But that doesn't mean Airavat, there is only one Airavat. Airavat is a post. Airavat is a category of elephants. So Airavat, the Mother Lakshmi also appeared in Samudra Manthan. And the Lord Dhanvantari also appeared in Samudra Manthan. So that means those entities are always there. They're eternal entities. Now, another interesting question will come up that later on, which we will discuss, that the Amrit, the elixir, was given to the demigods, and they became immortal, and demons did not get the Amrit. So does it mean that demigods are eternal? If the universe itself is not eternal, how come demigods are eternal? Which is a quite logical, obvious question. If I forget that, please remind me, and then we will discuss that a little later. So let's come back to this important incarnation, Lord Dhanvantari. So what he gave, Lord Dhanvantari gave the science of Ayurveda, or he revitalized the science of Ayurveda. Vedic literature, Ayurveda was given by Lord Brahma during the creation itself um, to the all the living entities. But Lord Dhanvantari science of Ayurveda because that was the time. So Samudra, another interesting aspect we need to consider here is Samudra Manthan is not happening only once. Sometimes when the demigods are less powerful and demons become powerful, this Samudra Manthan, it happens again because um, demons and demigods, they are sons of Kashyapa Muni. And then obviously there will be help demigods will seek from Lord Vishnu, and then Lord Vishnu will bring it to the point that they have to cooperate and start Samudra Manthan. So this activity will happen again and again, because as we can see in different Manvantaras of Manu and different days of Lord Brahma, this activity will keep happening, and then the entities will come again. So Lord Dhanvantari appeared from there, and later on, when the Samudra Manthan was coming, it continued. Many entities came up, and before Lord Dhanvantari, the most powerful poison appeared, which is called halahal. And Lord Vishnu, who was sitting on the top of that churning, the Mandara, the Meru mountain, he told Lord Shiva to consume that poison. Otherwise, the whole living entities were dying just because of the fumes of that poison. It was incredibly powerful poison. And Lord Shiva just kept that poison, or some different references say that Parvati, she made sure that the poison won't go beyond the neck of Lord Shiva. And then the poison is extremely hot. It burns like anything. And that's why there is the expansion of Sheshanag, which is cobra, the Nag, which is there around the neck of Lord Shiva. And then came Lord Dhanvantari. Now, in case of Lord Dhanvantari, he had that elixir, the Amrit Kumbha, in his hand, with some references say that he had herbs in his hand, and then he had a conch shell and all the paraphernalia. So there are different aspects or different descriptions of Lord Dhanvantari we will see in our references or in our different scriptures. Because Padma Puran, Vishnu Puran, Bhagavad Puran, and other scriptures, we will see different descriptions of Lord Dhanvantari. So, as I said, this churning happens again and again. So Lord Dhanvantari can appear in any form he likes because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Lord Dhanvantari, while leaving this this churning of the ocean, because the elixir, that Amrit Kumbha, was he was just giving it, because the churning, in that churning, whatever was coming out, it was being distributed between demigods and demons. And demons, they saw that elixir, the Amrit Kumbha, and they just took it away. Now, we can say that though Bali Maharaj was the leader of the demons, that he snatched it. Now, Bali Maharaj is not an ordinary person. Though he is born in, or he has appeared in a demon's family, he is a devotee. He's a grand personality. We will discuss about him in a while. So, but he is a king of demons. So he has to um, take the position that whatever is suitable for his praja, he will pick it up from the after the from the place where the churning is happening. So because they are also giving the equal efforts. Probably demons are even more powerful. So we can't say even equal or more or less. So that's the tendency of demons to give more efforts for the sense gratification. So then, what happened? The elixir, the Amrit Kumbha was with demons, but let's come to that point little later because Mohini Murthy we will be discussing soon. Lord Dhanvantari, while leaving, he promised. Demigods were saying, "We can't leave your association. You have to come. You have to be with us." And Lord Dhanvantari said, "Yes, I will come. There is a time that I have to come. I have to come back again." And there was a king. His name was Dirghatamasha in Varanasi. And he was performing severe austerities because he wanted a son, very, very powerful son, to rule his kingdom. And that time, Lord was very happy with him. And after his sacrifices, when he performed the yajna, which is Lord himself, Lord promised him that I will come as your son. And Lord Dhanvantari appeared as his son. King, and his name there is Divodasha. Lord Dhanvantari is another name. He ruled the kingdom perfectly, and that time he appeared. There is another reason behind it, because human beings were suffering a lot because of the earlier misdeeds of the kings. And Lord Indra saw that, and he also he prayed to the Supreme Lord that you please appear and help these suffering entities on the earth. And that time, King Dirghatamasha, he was also performing the austerities, and then as his son, Lord Dhanvantari appeared. So there are two things Lord fulfilled: King Indra's prayers as well as the austerities by King Dirghatamasha, the father of Lord Dhanvantari. And as Lord Dhanvantari says that Brahma has composed the Ayurveda, but I am going to give the proper schooling pattern of the Ayurveda. And then he gave the very beautiful details of how the Ayurveda should be studied. And he says that he systematized the schooling pattern for Ayurvedic studies. And he says that Shalya, Shalakya, Kaya Chikitsa, Kaya means body, Chikitsa means to examine. Bhuta Vidya means not about ghosts. That is commonly known, people see Bhut as ghosts. Bhut means any Jivatma, any living entity is considered as Bhut. So living of the in this world, how to live a life, the healthy life, is called Bhuta Vidya. And Kaumara Bharatya means how to control your tendencies when you are growing, when you're Kumar Avastha, Pauganda Avastha, Kumar Avastha, Yuva Avastha, Praudha Avastha. How Avastha means the condition, and these are the different conditions of life, of growth. How to follow that? That is all given in a section in the division of Ayurveda called Kumara Bharatya. And Agadha Tantra. If someone wants to exceed the natural capacities of human beings, for example, we can see some people follow to extreme efforts to achieve something. Those are out of their intellect, out of their physical strength. One or more of the Lord's opulences human being gets in a fraction. If they want to optimize those opulences, how to do that? That is called Agadha Tantra. So that was again given in the 8 divisions by Lord Dhanvantari. He created the 8 divisions of the Ayurveda. And then Rasayana Tantra. Rasayana means chemical. So not the industrial chemicals we deal with nowadays, but that Rasayana Tantra is actually the different types of aushadhi, different types of medicines. So minerals, liquids, gases, Vayu Tattva. The basis of Ayurveda, I'm sure most of you know, that is Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Vata means gas. Pitta means the digestion power, the acid we have in our body. And Kapha means the, what do you call it? Kapha is the protective cover which our body has in the process of our digestion. So if we get excess, then that is mucus. But if it is in a correct quantity, that kapha is very necessary for our body. So that's the basis of Ayurveda. And then Rasayana Tantra is how to maintain that using different types of ingredients by our food habits, by our breathing techniques, by our if there is something wrong in our body, what to administer. So that is all aushadhi. And Vaijikarana Tantra means in the Lord Dhanvantari brought different aspects of Ayurveda, including the surgery. Surgery, the one of his main disciples who gave the details of surgery is called Sushrut. So he wrote a very elaborate details of how to perform surgeries. But surgery right now we give our doctors give anesthesia. But at that time, it was given by Sammohan Vidya, different types of hypnotisms. And following the hypnotherapy or hypnotism, the surgery was performed. And that is called Vajikarana Tantra. And he began teaching the frameworks of the Ayurveda. How he taught Ayurveda, Pratyaksha means, Prati means across, Aksha means eye, by perception, by Chikitsa. You can see the person, he's not very happy, he's not smiling, there is something wrong with his skin, and that means the perception, just by looking at the person. And there is Nadi Chikitsa, the pulses, by checking the pulses. This is Pratyaksha. Then you have to follow Agama. Agama is authoritative scriptures. He wrote everything, as we saw those 8 divisions. He wrote it, or he provided the details in the scriptural aspects. At that time, everything was not written. It was all by hearing process. So it was passed on by Jnana and Vijnana, by giving the knowledge and by realizing the knowledge, by practicing the knowledge. So Agama, the framework he changed was Pratyaksha, perception, and second was Agama, by giving the scriptural details. Anumana, inference, what will be the result of it, and Upamana, which is analogy. Means if something goes wrong, then what that equivalent be? How, for example, human being becomes greedy or he becomes envious, how that will be. So he gave the details like, for example, Sarpa Chikitsa, means the person is becoming envious. Why? Because of the behavioral pattern, because of the habits. And then there is even detailed aspects like a person has this gross body, which is just an instrument to follow to fulfill the desires, because without this gross body, you can't do anything. And Ayurveda gives the how to maintain this gross body properly. But behind the gross body, we have the body of different desires. That is called Sukshma Sharira. So we have multiple bodies who follow different desires. I want to buy a house, I want to travel by plane, I want to travel by car, I want to do this, I want to do that. So the Sukshma Sharira, the micro body, the body will work at different point of time to fulfill that desire. And it will use this gross body to work. But before that, there is a body of desire, which is called Karan Sharir, which is made up of mind, intelligence, and false ego. So that is our subtle body. So there are three Sharira we have, which are material. And that how to live properly using those three Sharira, three bodies, is also given in the Ayurveda. So that is the name. That's what Lord Dhanvantari has given us. Ayurveda is a very, very amazingly fascinating study. But one thing we need to keep it in mind and make sure that Ayurveda yoga, or Patanjali Muni talks about yoga, and opposite of yoga is viyoga. What is meant by yoga? 100 plus 1 is addition. In Sanskrit, it is called yoga. Addition means yoga, and the subtraction means viyoga. So, yoga viyoga kriya is addition and subtraction method, as per the Sankhya philosophy, as per the Sankhya Veda in Sanskrit. So, that is the literal translation of addition of subtraction, yoga and viyoga. So, yoga, to maintain the body, where to attach that? It's not for sense gratification. It's not for maintaining the body as it is. Yoga is to connect our body, our cells, our soul, our existence to somebody. That is called yoga. And Patanjali Muni, who has given the details of yogic sciences, he starts yoga with the first verse, Pranamya Shirasa Vishnu. I offer my respectful obeisances and I surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord Vishnu. So Patanjali Muni tells in the first beginning of the Patanjali Yoga Sutra that this science is to connect myself or connect the Jiva with Paramatma, with the Supreme Lord. That's the purpose of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. The people who are doing it just for exercises and some kind of what do you call it, physical type of jugglery of their body, that's not the purpose of yoga. So this is the background of Dhanvantari's Lord Dhanvantari's Yoga Sutra and Charaka Samhita, who was one of the proponents of Ayurveda, Sushrut Samhita, which talks mainly about the what do you call surgery, and there were other disciples of Lord Dhanvantari, Paushkalavat, Aurabha, and Vaitaran. They were his main disciples, and successive disciples were the Nighantu Ratnakar, and others were some of the Shastra or some of the scriptural details which have come up from the divisions of Lord Dhanvantari. So that is about Lord Dhanvantari. It was an interesting meditation. Then let's come back to the verse again. I think we don't have a lot of time, and we need to finish it quickly. There is a lot to discuss here. So the Amrit Kumbha, that nectar, was with demons. And then Lord said, these demons, they cannot have the nectar, because if the demoniac tendencies will become more and more prominent if they drink this elixir. So mode of goodness should become prominent, and that's why the right people or the right personalities to have the nectar are demigods, because they are thinking about the welfare of the entire universe. Demons will do opposite. And that is why Lord took the form of a woman, because the most fascinating, the most alluring, enchanting form Lord has created is of a is to fulfill the desire of lust in this material world. Third chapter of Bhagavad Gita speaks about it very elaborately. We don't have to discuss about how powerful the lust is, but demons, their sense gratification, when you have everything, then the most important sense gratification people think at a subtle level and eventually at gross level is lust. And the most enchanting form of the Lord as Mohini Murti, she said that whether I will take this because you all are brothers, demigods and demons, you're sons of Kashyap Muni, so that should be distributed equally. And because they were so enchanted, so allured by the beauty of the Mohini Murti, in Bhagavatam later on you can read the details of how beautiful Mohini Murti is. That's the temporary manifestation of the Lord for this purpose only. And Lord said that whether by honest or dishonest means, you have to trust me. And they were so mesmerized by the beauty of Mohini Murti. Demons agreed for everything. They said, yes, whatever you do, we are happy with that, no problem. And then I'm sure most of you know the story that to have the Amrit, to have the nectar, and there was a condition that you have to drink the nectar without the middle part of your arm, which is this one here. You have to keep it like this. You can't make it like this. Yeah, you can't fold it. You can fold your arm. So you have to hold it like this and you have to drink it. And she was going to deliver the nectar. Obviously, demons, they couldn't because they knew that it will fall down. And Lord made sure that nectar will not go waste. So it could not fall in the arms of on the palm of demons, and they couldn't do anything. And then they said, we can't drink it. And she said, okay, you have to use your intelligence. Then she turned towards demigods and said, now what will you do? And they said, don't worry, we will feed this nectar to others. And this is in mode of goodness, your intelligence is very refined. So they fed the nectar to each other. And that's how they became Amrita. They received that immortality. We'll come to that point. And then Mohini Murti was giving. So if we follow, if we restrain our what to take away from these two pastimes of the Lord. One is to maintain the body which is given by the Lord. We should follow the instructions given by the Lord, not by our own whimsical ideas. By giving, for example, to treat cancer, people are coming up with different derivatives of arsenic and cyanides and all that stuff. Obviously, that person can live a little bit longer, but the pain the people have to go through is horrifying. So how to live a life? We have to follow the instructions given by Lord Dhanvantari, Ayurveda. Not that we ourselves will be able to follow Ayurveda perfectly, but Ayurveda is an amazing science. Obviously, for today's situation, because of the effect of Kali Yuga, lot of Ayurvedic knowledge is either corrupted or lost, or we don't have a complete knowledge of Ayurveda. Only few people are very qualified enough. There are efforts in progress to revive some of the knowledge, but I'm not sure how far it will be successful. So these two personalities from the pastimes of Mohini Murti, how powerful is the illusory energy of the Lord, and mode of goodness will refine our intelligence and give us an understanding of how to cooperate with each other. If we think about ourselves, and if we get indulged into the habits which are more into mode of passion and ignorance, then obviously that is a destructive for the society and for ourselves. So that we have learned from this. Chaturdasham Narasimham Bibhraddaityam Daitendra Murjitam Dadara Karajai Rura Avekam Katakruddhita. In the 14th incarnation, the Lord appeared as Narasimha and bifurcated the strong body of atheist Hiranyakashipu with his nails, just as a carpenter pierces cane. Of course, we know about the whole story of Narasimhadev, Prahlad Maharaj, and how what was the reason behind appearance of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. That will come in a third canto of Bhagavatam. And Hiranyaksha was killed by Varahadev, and Hiranyakashipu was killed by Narasimhadev, because Hiranyakashipu wanted to become immortal. And the whole, again, when you're in a mode of ignorance, which is or the demoniac tendencies, people will ask for very irrational demands. And in corporate world, we can easily see that. Here also, they are following the same, the Hiranyakashipu. He was asking for the boons of immortality from the person who is immortal, Lord Brahma, who is mortal, who has fixed life of 100 years, which is quite an interesting demand. So, and then we know the story of how Hiranyakashipu was the surgically very perfect surgery was done, and by Lord Narasimhadev, and how he was killed. And then the amazing part is the Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, because Narasimhadev was very ferocious, Ugra Narasimha. And then he was pacified by a little boy, Prahlad Maharaj, who fell at the lotus feet of the Lord. And Lord Narasimhadev became very pacified, and he spoke to Prahlad Maharaj. Those prayers are there in the 7th canto. Definitely on the day of Narasimha Chaturdashi, day after tomorrow, I think we will read those prayers, or you all can read. So let's go to the next verse, which is the quickly we will finish that. In the 15th, Panchadasham Vamanakam Krutva Gadad Brahmalehe Padatrayam Yachamanaha Pratyaditsustri Pishtapam. In the 15th incarnation, the Lord assumed the form of dwarf Brahmana Vamandev and visited the arena of sacrifice arranged by Maharaj Bali. Although at heart he was willing to begin the kingdom of the 3 planetary systems, he simply asked for a donation of 3 steps of land. The purport is, again, the Almighty God can bestow upon anyone the kingdom of the universe from a very small beginning, and similarly, he can take away the kingdom of the universe on the plea of begging a small piece of land. We know the story of Bali Maharaj, one of my favorite pastimes from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bali Maharaj is a phenomenally magnanimous personality. He was very respectful towards Brahmanas, and he was so powerful when he conquered the universe. Indradev and all the demigods, they had to hide somewhere. They couldn't even face Bali Maharaj, and without even battle, he just conquered the Swargalok. before that, he was killed by Indradev, by his Vajra, and he was brought back to life with the Sanjeevani mantra by Shukracharya, his guru. And then he conquered everything. And then Vamandev appeared because all the Aditi, mother of demigods, she went to Lord Vishnu and said, my son Indra is very attached. He needs his kingdom. He has to rule it. Otherwise, everything will go wrong. So that time, Lord Vishnu said, yes, I will appear as your son, and Indradev will, Lord Indra will gain the kingdom back. And that's the pastime when Vamandev appeared. Then Bali Maharaj's yajna it was happening. At that time, Vamandev went as a bhikshuki, to beg the alms as a Brahmana boy. And Bali Maharaj offered whatever he wanted, and with the 3 steps. First step, in 2 steps, he just occupied the entire universe. And that time, he asked, he said, where is the 3rd step? Now, whatever you had, everything is occupied by me. And that time, Bali Maharaj gives a very beautiful answer. He says, you are not following the principles, but still, you are the Supreme Lord. This is coming from different lectures I have heard. Padma Puran, there is a reference of this pastime. Vishnu Puran, there is a reference of this pastime. In Bhagavad, of course, there is a reference of this pastime. And there is a commentary by Acharyas as well. So that time, Bali Maharaj, that's where I am giving this reference. That time, Bali Maharaj says that it's all yours. You have occupied now. But one thing, you don't take it by force. Every Jivatma has to give it by that Jivatma's own will, by our own will. And that is the free will. I am now offering my whole existence, my free will to you. And that's why you can put your 3rd step on my head. At that time, Bali Maharaj did not have anything. He was tied by the ropes of Varuna. He was in a very helpless condition. But it was the ultimate gesture of surrender to the Supreme Lord. And Lord was so pleased by that gesture. Indra got the kingdom back, but Bali Maharaj had the promise. And it's a very beautiful pastime in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Vindhyavali says, his wife, Bali Maharaj's wife, offers her prayers. Prahlad Maharaj comes, he offers his prayers. Bali Maharaj offers his prayers. And yeah, I get bit, sometimes I get bit, what do you call, I won't say emotional, but it's a very heightened experience to read that pastime. It's very beautiful. And that time, Bali Maharaj, before that, Shukracharya said to Bali Maharaj, he is the Supreme Lord, he is coming to you. And it is scripturally perfect not to reject any kind of alms, that I can't give you anything. And still Bali Maharaj says, it's a very, very beautiful statement. He says, if he is the Supreme Lord, he owns everything. If he's going to get it, my 2 hands are not enough. He will get it anyway. And if he wants to give it, my 2 hands are not enough to accept it. So whatever happens, because he has come, it is my fortune that he has come to beg alms from me. And he rejects the suggestion, the order of his spiritual master. And that time Shukracharya curses him that you will lose everything. Whatever you have gained, you will lose everything. And Bali Maharaj says, so be it. That rejection of the order of the Guru is acceptable only in case of absolute surrender. Otherwise, we should never reject the order or the instruction of our spiritual master. That is the lesson we should learn from this. And then Bali Maharaj gets the Vamandev, Bali Maharaj is the eternal associate of Lord Vamandev. And Vamandev says, I'm so pleased with your surrender that I will, the Vishwakarma, the celestial architect, will come and he will create the most beautiful residence for you, the planet for you, and that is called Sutala Loka. We have 7 higher planetary systems and so 7 lower planetary systems. Those are also Swarga Loka, the lower planets, and higher planets are also Swarga Loka. The lower planetary systems are called Bila Swarga. And in that, one of the planetary system is called Sutala Loka. Lord Vamandev has Bali Maharaj is residing there right now as well, and Lord Vamandev has promised him as his doorkeeper, as a Dwarpal, and that is the pastime of this. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam. There are 9 processes of Navavidha Bhakti, it is called as Prahlad Maharaj's prayers. And in that, the last is Atma Nivedan. Telling everything, surrendering yourself completely to the Lord. Atma means to the person, Nivedan means to giving us everything to the Lord. That is the personification of Atma Nivedan in this 9 processes of Bhakti. Every person, there is we can see the example of that. The example of Atma Nivedan is Bali Maharaj here. So that's it. Basically, all the 3 verses we have covered. It was quite rapid. We can talk a lot about these verses, and anyway, it will come eventually in the when we will study different cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's basically it. Do we have any time for questions, or we have gone way over time? Not sure. I'll just switch on the lights. Give me a second. Yeah. Do we have any time for questions, or we can stop now? Jyoti Mataji? Okay. So are there any questions or comments or any corrections?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you so much for your wonderful class and insight into Dhanvantari and Ayurveda. Thank you so much. Just one question. I know we've gone over time, but it was a nectar we all wanted to hear. My question is, I know you mentioned about why Lord Dhanvantari appeared and also to fulfill the desire of Indradev. Iravat appeared as well. And how were the other things appeared from that? What is the significance of?
Okay, so the background behind that is Kurmadev. I think Madhukumari Mataji has covered about the Kurmadev. Why Kurmadev became a pivot? There is a Shloshana Chakravarti Thakur, one of our acharyas, says that Lord has an itch on his back, and he wanted to get that itch satisfied, and that is why this was the pastime. He became a Kurma. Where is all this nectar, all this opulence is coming from? Because it's a Garbhoda question, right? And Lord is there at the bottom of it. So everything comes for the facilitation in the material world from the Lord himself. And that was the purpose. Airavat came for Indradev, Lakshmi Devi appeared and that from the Samudra Manthan, and she went back, she being a natural consort of the Supreme Lord, she went to the Lord himself. And then Halahal also appeared, because there is always a use of everything. So it is halal is a poison, but all the poisons in the material world are derivatives of that, are the conceptual derivatives of halal. Nectar, yes, the elixir, everything which is which is nourishing, which is good, which is essential to mind, body, and soul, is all nectar. The ultimate nectar is, of course, the holy name. So, like that, many things appeared, which is basically the opulence of the Lord given in the material world, and that was the reason behind Samudra Manthan. So, Lord planned to do the Samudra Manthan, and He gave that to the living entities and how we use it. It's an example of how we use the opulences of the Lord. So that was the purpose behind Samudra Manthan.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for a wonderful explanation. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanavad pranam, Prabhupada. Thank you for a wonderful class. It was really, your depth of knowledge is really quite amazing. So thank you for that. I would just like to add a word of warning as the skill of the Brahmanas is diminished. The skills of the Ayurvedic practitioners is also diminished in Kali Yuga. So I would just like to put out a word of warning for those devotees who have critical illnesses, not to reject homeopathy, and for Ayurvedic only. It is with caution, unless you have the right practitioner. It should not be. You should not take risks when you've got critical illnesses, death, sort of orientated terminal type illnesses, to rely only on Ayurvedic stuff unless you know the practitioner and their skill. There is a lot of bogus out there as well, and this skill is largely diminished. So just a word of warning to devotees, please, Prabhuji.
Yes, absolutely. Now, my daughter is a medicine student in University of Nottingham. She's about to finish her third year. And we discuss a lot about this Ayurveda and allopathy and homeopathy and naturopathy and electropathy and I don't know, all sorts of pathies there. And obviously, very, very important point you have mentioned, Prabhuji. Thank you for that. In the name of Ayurveda, there are so many bogus practitioners, and that is again the effect of Kali Yuga. And so is there in the name of all other pathies. In case of allopathy as well, we know how Pfizer and all other great pharmaceutical companies, how fraudulent they are. There are so many researches and studies. They do it just to make sure that the diseases will remain and their multi-billion-dollar target every year will get fulfilled. So yes, everywhere there is a word of caution. So whomever is going through the different types of physical or health challenges, please make sure that whichever medicine you follow, first thing is make sure that we don't have to use that extreme medication, or if at all we need to, then we should have that cautious approach about any kind of medicinal therapy, especially Ayurveda, because many people think that they know little bit and then they project that they know a lot. So very, very important. Thank you for that point. Yeah. If there are no questions, we are well over time. And is there anything in the comment section? Yeah, Ayurveda and thank you, Mataji. Yeah, that question is answered. That's it for now. Thank you very much. Yeah, we will discuss some verses some other time. And thank you for your attendance, and thank you for listening to whatever the explanation I have heard from our scriptures, our acharyas, and our parampara. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha
Evacha
patitanam
patitanam pramabhebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki. Thank you, dear Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu, for
Krishna.
nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare